All right. Welcome, guys. Excited to be here with you guys on the production call. And Lars tapped me on the shoulder for this topic, and I'm as excited to share it with you guys. I first shared this topic with a group of private coaching clients last year, and it landed really well with them. And I'm excited to bring it here to you today. Reason being is this has been kind of my main focus coming out of EXPCon last week, and something that I really think is going to help you, with your production and all of your sales goals, as well as just any other goals that you might have, whether those goals are health oriented or agent attraction oriented. I really feel like this is the thing that separates those that achieve their goals from those that, want to achieve their goals, but continually find themselves spinning out. So let me share my screen real quick. So we call this developing a mindset of accountability. I do believe it is the backbone to every great business. Everybody give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Cool. So before we dive into what I have prepared to go over with you, does anybody have a production win that they want to share since our last meeting? Oh, come on. I know you guys are selling a bunch of real estate out there. Is that a win I'm hearing?
Yeah, so we're putting in 3 listings this week, John.
Nice, dude. What's the price point?
Everywhere from 250 to 375.
250 to 375, yeah.
I like it. $1 million in business coming your way. Perfect. That's half of an agent's cap requirement almost.
That's right.
What are you guys doing to generate 3 listings in a week?
Some of it's Spear, really.
Spear? Nice.
Spear. One's a referral. Agent to agent referral, yeah.
Nice. Congrats, guys. That's an awesome win. Appreciate you sharing.
I got one.
Go for it.
I listed 2 this week, just yesterday, and put 2 condos under contract as well.
Look at all you guys over there, all bashful. Like, I ain't got no wins, and you got wins in your pocket like that. That's what it's all about. I've been thinking a lot about production lately, and just kind of like what agents need, and it's kind of gotten me encouraged. I'll share this secret with you guys. I've actually been thinking about getting back into production, and I know Lars is going to yell at me, but me and my wife just have this feeling that like it's so we built our business in the last recession, and we just found that change in market conditions to be such a unique opportunity to shine. And we just approached it with the mindset of, hey, we're in a big change right now, and with a big change comes big opportunity. And we find ourselves in a brand new market right now because we live in Bozeman, Montana, and we were in a brand new market when the last recession hit. I don't know. It has these feelings of nostalgia, like everything is right for everybody to just crush it if they're willing to have this mindset of accountability. So I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. Some people that are near and dear to me are trying very hard to talk me out of it, but I just have this sense right now that like it would be awesome and fun. So I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but I'll share that with you guys. That's personally what I'm thinking about. So let's dive into the material today. And then I really want you guys to play all out on this material. And if you feel like you just can't get there, like where I'm suggesting we go with this, like I want you to be honest about that. And I want you to challenge me. And I want to have a conversation with you that I think will serve a lot of people that are listening to this live or listening to it later on. Because I don't believe that the mindset of accountability and the conversation of accountability really takes shape until there's a conversation with somebody who doesn't think they can or doesn't think they should. And that's where it really just comes full circle. So what did I announce? No, I was just saying, Glenda, that like I'm excited about production right now and what the market's doing. And it's got me even thinking that I want to get back into production, probably within like the EXP luxury division, because it's just such a ripe opportunity. And I think that where we are as a real estate market across the country, is a market where this topic, if we will embrace it, you will have the biggest gains of your entire career, and you will set your business on a trajectory that will grow through the next decade. So let's dive in. So accountability is not something that can be given or assigned to a person. Instead, it is something that you must take on yourself. So maybe you're running a team, maybe you're a lone soldier and you're doing it yourself, or you're part of a team. Accountability can never be forced upon you. And when people force it on people, it doesn't work. It has to be something that's seen as a good thing that they take on themselves. And it's your ability to claim your own actions and discuss your own reasons behind them. Transparency pushes you to be accountable. Being transparent about your decisions and actions makes it almost impossible not to. So leaders inspire accountability through their ability to accept responsibility before they place blame. So regardless of where you sit today, when I was, approaching the financial recession of 2007, I was all by myself. But by myself, I still had this idea that I was a leader, and I had to first lead myself before I could lead others. And if you can't be a leader and assign accountability to yourself and follow through with it, you'll never lead other people and do the same. So just know that, like, everything that you want to achieve is on the other side of accountability. And I got that directly from Lars. Lars says this all the time. He says, I've never achieved anything significant in my life without a high level of accountability associated to it. And Lars is one of the top, performers in all things that he goes after that I know personally. And I know that he takes an insane amount of personal accountability onto himself in order to achieve those things. So, it's just really important, guys, that what is the quote? You can't love somebody else until you first love yourself. You can't lead somebody else into accountability unless you first are accountable yourself. All right. Whoops. So accountability is essential in business because it helps to establish trust, transparency, and responsibility within the organization. When businesses are accountable, they take ownership of their actions and decisions and are willing to be held responsible for any negative outcomes that may arise as a result. This helps to build trust with team members, customers, employees, and affiliates. And guys, the trust that you have with team members and customers is everything. It is your business. If you don't have that, you don't have a business. And just the same, the trust that you build with yourself by being accountable is everything to what you're going to accomplish personally. So let's say that you've got a goal, and I'm sure everybody on here can relate, and you were like, this is what I'm going to do. Maybe it was a New Year's resolution, maybe it was a business goal, maybe you did some quarterly planning, and you said, this is what I'm going to do, and here's what I need to do in order to achieve that. And if you didn't achieve that goal, somewhere along that process, maybe it was the next day, maybe it was the next week, maybe it was the next month, maybe it was sometime throughout that year, you didn't achieve or didn't do the thing you needed to do in order to achieve what you needed to do, and you broke trust with yourself. Now, you don't think about it as I broke trust with myself. You just think about it as, oh, I tried to do this thing and I didn't do it, but your subconscious knows that you broke trust with yourself. And our subconscious is always working, whether we know it or not. So what I want to impress upon you right now is that whatever goals you set for yourself moving forward, if you're being honest with yourself and you're like, hey, I have a tendency to say I'm going to do things and not follow through, then I want to wipe the slate clean, and I want you to figure out what your goal is. And then I want you to make the action step that you're going to do to achieve that goal to be so tiny and so small that you can't not achieve it. And I want you to incrementally increase that to where it needs to be to get your goal. So let me give you an example. Let's say that in order to achieve your sales production goal, you figure out what your conversion rate is. We're going to talk about that in this call. And then you're like, I need to make, 10 meaningful contacts per day. Let's just say that that's your number. I want your goal to be one meaningful contact per day. Because if your goal is to have 10 meaningful contacts tomorrow, and you have a propensity not to follow through, you're not going to follow through, and then the goal is going to be out the window, and it's just going to be a dream. It's not going to be a goal. What I want you to do is hit that one meaningful contact every single day until you're like, I can do 2. And then you do 2. And you build on that, so on and so forth, until you're hitting 10. And what you're going to do is you're going to build up trust with yourself, and you're going to start to program your subconscious that when you say you're going to do something, you can, you will, and you do. And as you build that muscle, you'll get to a place where you can be like, tomorrow I'm going to have 10 meaningful contacts. And your subconscious won't let you not do that. I'm hoping this makes sense here. It's a little bit like inside the heart and the mind, but this is how it really works. And this could be the key to why you're really not achieving the goals you want. So by the time we finish this presentation, I will illustrate how all of this comes together. We're going to have a plan for your real estate business that will increase your performance, morale, and overall productivity. Because I know I'm speaking to many different people right now. I know I'm speaking to brand new agents, top performing agents, team leaders, broker owners, and everybody in between all of those categories. So let's dive in. Accountability is the glue that bonds commitment to results. So like, what is your commitment going to be? What are the results that you're after? Accountability is that bridge that brings the two together. And the benefits of accountability are that they increase the responsibility and transparency that an organization has towards its team members. So again, if you're a lone soldier, it increases the responsibility and transparency that you have with yourself, customers, and the community it serves. Here are some benefits of organizational accountability. Organizational transparency. Most organizations have very little of this, and that's why they never grow and thrive together. Enhanced community and culture. Most organizations think that culture is a party that they do, when in reality, culture is what the company does when you're not there. So if you have an enhanced community and culture, your company exceeds and excels even when you're not in the room. To me, that's culture. It increases the feelings of competency. When people feel empowered that they can achieve something, they will start to take action. When they feel like they can't, then they won't. And it will enhance the personal responsibility and your talent development. Talent develops because somebody is pushed to become greater than who they are by themselves. So as your organization enhances in all these areas, it's going to provide an environment where people within that organization can be pushed to newer and higher levels than they can achieve on their own. If you don't do that, they don't need to be with you. You know, I use an analogy all the time in a real estate team. I'm your coach. I'm not your boss. I'm here to help you. And every single professional athlete and everybody who's at the top of their game has a coach, maybe more than one coach. So if you want to be the best that you can be, or the best in your field, or the best in your niche, then you've got to be coached. You've got to be held to a higher level of accountability that you accept and you step into in order to get to another level. Hopefully that makes sense. So how do we implement all this? Sounds good, John. What do we do? So, and I apologize, guys, I'm a little bit stuffy, but I actually feel good. It's just the remnants of Vegas still working their way through my body. So implementing accountability. As the leader, you will share the vision for the company as well as the expectations and responsibilities of all involved in the attainment of that vision. So as the leader, you've got to lay this out for them. You've got to set the KPIs, key performance indicators, and the benchmarks for each role within your company, and you've got to get their buy-in. And the buy-in is critical because a lot of people tell people what they have to do, but they don't connect the dots as to why they're going to do those things. So there's no buy-in. If there's no buy-in, there's going to be no long-term follow-through. So you also want to develop a method for tracking and collecting the KPIs on a regular basis. I like weekly, and you want to establish a weekly rhythm of reviewing the KPIs in a public setting. I'm going to tell you why that's important in a minute. Then you define and communicate your performance improvement plan upfront. If you're going to be a leader, you're not going to please everybody. Stop trying to devise a plan that you think they will like and start devising a plan that will take them to the next level. Because if your plan takes somebody to the next level, guess what, guys? They're going to love you. They're not going to like you. They're going to love you. If you develop a plan that makes them like you, they're not going to have any progress and they're going to leave you. So remember this: like equals leave, love equals retention. You have to hold people accountable, even if you have that moment of being uncomfortable. And guys, it's uncomfortable for everybody. Like, nobody naturally wakes up and says, I want to get into a confrontation with one of my team members today. But you've got to be so passionately sold out yourself. Again, buy-in, right? You've got to buy into what you're doing and why you're doing it. And you need to be bought into that so much so that you're willing to be uncomfortable to help somebody achieve the result that you know you can help them achieve. And this quote was by Kobe Bryant. And for those of you that know Kobe Bryant, like, he had his, offensive coaches, defensive coaches, head coach, but he also had this secret weapon, as he called it. This guy named Tim Glover, who, after they finished a game, Kobe would fly to this guy and just get the most ridiculous coaching and accountability and workout that you could humanly fathom. And it was that level of being willing to hold himself accountable that led to his greatness. Same coach Michael Jordan had. So we want to encourage transparency and honesty. The goal is to foster an atmosphere of excellence. If you can't create an organizational transparency about why you're doing what you're doing, and you can't get people to be honest, you're never going to grow something that's excellent. So really important, guys, that you understand that. Personal accountability requires mindfulness. Like, hey, we have to be aware. Acceptance. We have to say, okay, I'm going to surrender to this process. Honesty. Hey, I'm doing or not doing what I need to do. And courage to lay it all out on the line. And that's why I love public accountability, because it really takes this to that next level and forces you to be courageous. So what are the challenges? Before we get into like how we're going to do all this, let's just be clear in the back of our mind about what are these challenges going to be? And all change carries with it challenge, like, period, end of story. And here's the thing, guys, everything is going to continuously change for the rest of your life. So a lot of times we go through a season where we have success, and then we're like, okay, we figured that season out. Let's keep it the same so that we can continue having success. But that's not real life. That's not the real world. You've got to become sold out to the fact that change is inevitable, and you've got to be excited about change because you know that it carries challenge. And think about it this way, guys. Most people are avoiding change and avoiding challenge in every area of their life. If you can condition yourself mentally and otherwise to be somebody who embraces change and looks forward to change, you're going to find the opportunity in that change. And you're going to be somebody that leads away from the pack, because the pack's always going to be trying to keep it the same. So here's some of the main ones to be aware of. This idea of being resistant to change. We would read a book every single year at my company, because we have new people come in, new people come out. We have people fall into patterns of complacency. And this was just an easy read. We would do it over a 1-month period. We do it every year. And honestly, you could read this book in about an hour and a half to 2.5 hours, depending on how fast or slow you read. But we would just break it up into 4 weeks. So we'd say, hey, read between here and here. Next week at the company meeting, we're going to talk about it. Then we go read this to this, and then we talk about it. The energy bus is great about helping people understand where they fit into the organization and how they're helping it move forward. And this idea that, like, hey, we can't just stay resistant to change. We also have to understand that a lot of times with change and accountability, there's a lack of buy-in to the process. So you'll see this show up like this. You set out the KPIs, and you got some people following them and some people not. And the reason that some people are not following them is because however you've laid it out, or whatever you've laid out, the station WIFM, what's in it for me, isn't reaching your person on your team. And they're saying, this is not worth it. This is too much work. This is too much effort. it's not going to benefit me, and therefore I don't want to buy into the process. So you've got to get people bought in across a wide spectrum of people. And you've got to buy yourself in and day out. There will be times when you're following a plan and you're like, it's not worth it. You know, I spend a lot of my time on the agent attraction side of things right now, and we'll have people go to an event. They see the prize, the passive income, the financial freedom, the location freedom, the time freedom, the excitement of building an organization across states and countries. And they're bought in when they leave the event, but then they go do the work day in and day out, and they're like, it's not worth it. And what they're really telling you is, I don't think that it's going to work for me. So if you're in a rut right now and you're like, man, my production numbers are down, or I want to go to this level of production, find somebody who's done that level of production, number one, and ask them to look at your plan on how you're going to get there, and ask them if you think that's enough. And if they're being honest with you, they'll say, yeah, that's enough, or it's not enough. Here's what you got to make sure you do. And then you got to sell yourself out to that process. And there's going to be days that come where you're going to feel like everything's rejection. It's not worth it. It's not going to work for me. And you're going to be tempted to quit. But that's just the devil on your shoulder. That's what we call the father of lies. Your mind, or the devil in this case, is telling you a lie, and you're starting to believe it. When the reality is, any single one listening to my voice right now can accomplish anything you want to accomplish in real estate, if you're willing to do the work required in a predictable manner over an extended period of time to get you to that result. Now, you might say, hey, I want to be the number one real estate agent in my state, and I'm going to have to do 800 transactions. And in order to do 800 transactions, I'm going to have to do this on a daily basis. You might say, hey, that's not for me. And that's fine. But there is a KPI that you could follow over time to achieve that result. You just have to buy into that process and say it's worth it. Not every person's goal is going to be worth it to every other person. But you've got to figure out, what are your goals that you're willing to bleed or cry for, and what needs to happen in order for you to achieve that. And then you have to stay bought into it over an extended period of time until that result happens. Another one that comes up is lack of clarity from the leader. So the leader says, hey, we're gonna sell 500 homes as a team next year, and they don't lay out the plan on how all the different people are going to come together to make that happen. They haven't allocated a percentage of that business to the listing side versus the buy side. They haven't looked at what their listing conversion rates are and their appointments taken to listing contracts accepted are, and they don't know their numbers, and they haven't set a clear plan that's realistic, manageable, and gets buy-in from their people. So these are all important things. And then the biggest one, lack of consistency. More than all the other three combined, this is the one that takes out more people and is taking out more of you listening.
Thank you.
No, sitting down, comments.
Lack of consistency. And that's the one that like you just got to really get. You got to do it for the sake of doing it, to know that you are consistent that day. So it's like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? If you got this big, hairy, audacious goal, a BHAG for yourself over the next year, and like, guys, don't wait till January 1st to come up with your plan for next year. Get it now, because I would bet that in order for you to achieve what your heart's telling you really want to go after, that there's a different cadence of discipline and consistency that you need to have in your day-to-day structure in order to achieve that goal. So if you wait till January 1st to get to that level of consistency and discipline, you're going to miss out on the whole first quarter of next year. Now you're going to try to do your BHAG in 3 quarters instead of 4 quarters. My advice to you is figure out what your goals are for next year now, and start acting as if now, because you may need a ramp up period to get to that level of accountability and commitment. Remember, I said, hey, if your goal tells you need to have 10 meaningful contacts a day, you need to start with 1 to start programming that unconscious. So my goal is like, hey, let's figure it out for next year now, and let's make sure that I'm operating at the level that I'm going to have to be operating next year going into the new year, not starting with the new year. And I think if you guys who are listening will take that to heart, that will greatly enhance your ability to achieve the goals you set for yourself next year, if you're willing to do it. Now, let me just show you some real world examples of how we did this at my company. So my wife and I started Roost Real Estate in 2014. We've since passed it on. Jamie, who ran my company for multiple years, it's his company now. And he still runs it the exact same way. Why? Because it works. So you want to define your KPIs. You want to set your benchmarks. And an example would be, let's look at a buyer's agent for a minute. So a buyer agent has 7 different things that we track: attempted contacts, new contacts, appointments set, appointments had, agency signed, follow-up. And follow-up, guys, isn't, oh, I did the inspection. I set up the inspection for a new contract. Follow-up is anybody that you've met with that's not under contract. That's your follow-up category. So having clear defined KPIs, but also clearly defined definitions of each KPI are critical to the buy-in, because it's got to be clear and transparent. If we go back to this one right here, we can't have lack of clarity from the leader. And what I've created in these documents was years and years of refining. So the reason that I can stand behind my lead management policy is because I had years worth of holes poked in that. Hey, somebody would do something wrong or get a result we didn't like, and we would take the responsibility on ourselves and say, how did that happen? And they would say, well, you didn't say this, or you didn't do that, or you didn't tell us this. And I'd be like, okay, that's not me getting mad at my agent. That's me seeing this conversation as an opportunity to make my lead management policy better moving forward. So we would refine it, we would tweak it, we would change a sentence, we would add a sentence. And over the years, it just became to the point where it was bulletproof, meaning I could manage and track these 7 things, and there was no corners for them to hide in. Very, very important. So when we fail to set boundaries and hold people accountable, we feel used and mistreated. That is why we sometimes attack who they are, which is far more hurtful than addressing a behavior or choice. I really love this quote because I think a lot of team leaders struggle with implementing an accountability policy with their company because they don't want to be like the person that's nagging their agents. And when it's so clear and it's so well done, it's like, let's go back to the coaching analogy for a minute. Hey, dude, if you don't show up at practice, you're not going to play in the game. It doesn't mean I'm attacking you as a person. It doesn't mean I don't like you. It doesn't mean I don't love you. But it's like, it's just a clear boundary. Like, you don't show up to practice, you don't get to play in the game. So like, if we have a management policy, lead management policy in place, hey, if you don't treat these leads the way that we've all agreed that we're going to, you don't get more. It's simple. And I think that, like, we have to not be afraid of being somebody who holds people accountable. We have to be committed to a process and system that helps people win. And not having these things in place, an accountability plan, which, look, the accountability can't be the foundation that we build on. And maybe that's the problem that you're having if you're a team leader struggling to implement accountability. You're trying to make accountability the foundation. That's not the foundation. The foundation of accountability is the process and system that you have in place to help people get results that they can't get on their own. So let's flip the script on this a minute. I'm personally holding myself accountability to a higher level of health. So for the last, I would say, 3 years, I've been like trying to lose the same 10 or 20 pounds. And I'm like, I'll go to the gym, I'll go hiking, I'll do this, I'll do that. And like, the reality is, I just spent 3 years doing it my way, and it's not getting me to my result. So I have to be accountable to that. So now I'm doing CrossFit. What happens at CrossFit? I show up, there's people there, we got to do something together. And it's that community, it's that collective accountability that's hopefully going to help me get the result I'm looking for, because I'm not getting it on my own. So when we have these team structures, the benefit that you should be selling is, hey, in order for you, we sit down with somebody in a recruiting conversation. Hey, what are you trying to do? Well, I'm selling 10 houses a year. Hey, great. Most people don't sell 10 houses a year. You're doing something right. Good for you. Where are you trying to go to over the next 3 years? Well, I want to sell 36 homes a year. Awesome. And how many years have you been in the business? Oh, you've been in the business for 8 years. Have you been wanting to sell 36 homes a year for more than the last year? Well, yeah, but and then all the excuses come out, right? Well, you just tell them, look, I appreciate you being honest with me. Here's what we have for you. We have a proven scalable plan where we can plug you into this plan and help you with our tools, our systems, our processes, and our leads. And we know that in order for you to achieve the goal of selling 36 homes, based on years and data and hundreds of agents, you're going to have this many contacts a day. And we're going to step in and be personally responsible to help you do that. Guys, I cannot tell you how many times I had an agent join my company when my splits were higher, my requirements were harder, and it was more painful sounding than any other pitch that they were pitched. But the reason that they came and worked for me for less money and more work was because I painted a picture of clarity that gave them confidence that they were going to achieve the result once and for all. Everybody else just told them what they wanted to hear, and they had enough insight and awareness to know, hey, nothing's going to change if nothing changes. So I think that when done correctly, your accountability plan is the most valuable thing that you offer somebody in the marketplace. So we need to develop a strategy for accountability that includes recognition, because there are going to be seasons and periods where this is hard, and recognition through words of affirmation and incentives that highlight the individuals who are winning encourages others to win too. It not only encourages the people that are winning to stay consistent and disciplined, but it shows the other people, hey, this model, this plan, people are winning in this plan. I need to start winning too, because it brings the onus back to them and the responsibility back to them. It takes away the excuses, and you'll be able to demonstrate people who are winning at your company that you've gotten to a level that they couldn't get to otherwise, as a way to recruit future team members as well. So we're doing that. Just a side note on that, we're doing that right now, because if you're a single agent listening to this, I'm sharing with you a plan and a system that works, and I'm demonstrating that it's worked for a lot of people over a long period of time, including myself. And it's forcing you to realize, like, hey, maybe I need a plan like that too. So recognition is highly, highly important. In fact, I'm working right now with EXP to be the host leader for a regional rally in Salt Lake City in November. And one of the things that we're going back and forth on is most of this event that we're going to do needs to highlight and needs to offer recognition to the agents that have sold their first house, to the agents that have capped, to the agents that are iconing, to the agents that are winning at EXP. Because it tells all the other agents at EXP and all the other agents who are looking at EXP that they can win here too, and that we have a plan for them to do that. We just made a very significant hire at EXP, and we hired this guy who's probably one of the best individuals in the world at developing learning curriculum programs for large companies. So he helped build out all the learning curriculum for Keller Williams when they went through their hockey stick growth in the early 2000s. He's going to come out. He's going to do amazing things. He's going to revamp everything that we do at EXP so that we can make the process clearer and show people how to win in our company by doing X, Y, and Z. So what I've noticed is too many teams reprimand and demotivate their salespeople instead of lifting them up. There's a really good book out there. I forget what the title is, but the premise is you can lead with a carrot or you can lead with a stick. I think you need to lead both ways. And I think that so many people silo themselves into just being carrot leaders or just being stick leaders, and there's a time and place for both. So when we have recognition, that's the carrot. It's like the affirmation, the good feelings, the incentives. And when we have accountability, true accountability, there's going to be some reprimand as well. We have to do both, not one or the other. And then we have to develop a strategy for accountability that includes one-on-one support. So you or a leader at your company should be meeting with each team member individually on a monthly basis to inspect what you expect. You could put the most elaborate, comprehensive, beautiful, clear plan in place. If you never meet with to hold them accountable to that plan and see where they are, if they're on track or not, you're not being a leader. You're just being a dictator. And last I checked, people don't like to work for dictators. So it's your ability to get in there with them and help them understand where they are and where they're falling short, and then help them take care of that and get to the next level. That's what helps you get somebody from where they are to where they can be in a way that they can't do on their own. And when you have those 7 things dialed in, like I talked about, remember how I said earlier, there's no dark corners to hide in? Look, a lot of people sit down with their agents and they go, so let's have coffee. So tell me how it's going. And they let their agent ramble on for 10, 15, 20, maybe even 30 minutes about all these things that are not the thing. They're all the things that they feel comfortable sharing with you as an excuse as to why they're not doing what they need to do, but they're never the thing. It's just the things that we hide behind to save our ego and our pride. When I sit down with an agent, I say, hey, so thankful that you cut some time out of your calendar for me. Let's get down to business. And I'm just going to pull up those stats and I'm going to say, okay, you're making the contacts or you're not making the contacts. Sometimes that's as far as the conversation needs to go. Hey, you're not making your contacts. Talk to me about that. Let them speak. Let them get some, words out. Say, look, can we commit that it's not going to happen for you unless you make the contacts? Yes. Okay. So we got their buy-in again, and then set a mini goal, just like I did with you at the beginning of this call. Hey, if you need to talk to 10 people a day and you're not doing that, let's agree that we're going to talk to 1 tomorrow. And that's coaching, and that's supporting your agent to their agent's growth. And that's what you do. Maybe they are making their contacts, but they're not getting in touch with anybody. Hey, when are you talking to them? Let's look at the MIT lead response study. Let's set a time in your calendar to reach out to people during this time. Let's build out that calendar for the next 2 weeks now. And then let's circle back. I only want you calling leads between this time and this time on these days. And then let's circle back in 2 weeks and see if that number has improved. Guys, there's nowhere to hide. And there's like 2 or 3 simple talk tracks for each one of those 7 things to find the hole in their boat, plug it, and then measure improvement and performance. It's simple, guys. And all of a sudden, you're going to feel so empowered as a leader to help people hit their goals, because what's preventing them from hitting their goals is not complicated. It's simple stuff. They're just doing it or not doing it. They're consistent or not consistent. They're disciplined or not disciplined. And when you develop a good plan, you'll know it's a good plan because it won't have any dark areas to hide in. And you'll be able to sit down in 15 minutes and have an effective conversation with somebody that helps them and is not a waste of your time or their time. So key, guys, so key. And then you want to have ownership. When you show them how to do something consistently and correctly, you help them improve their results. When you help them improve their results, you help them increase their confidence. When you can tie their success and the success of the company back to those specific activities that drive the KPIs, you'll create an organization that becomes self-accountable, i.e. has real culture. You know what real culture is to me? Real culture is, I'm out to dinner with my wife and she says, oh, shoot, we forgot that we left such and such in the fridge at the office. Let's stop and get that on our way home. And I pop into the office at 8:30 on a Wednesday, and Chad and Jeff are in there making their dials. And I'm like, whoa, what's up, guys? You guys are at the office late. And they say to me, well, we had a lot of clients in town and we weren't able to make our calls when we normally make our calls. So we're in here to get our calls done because we know if we don't make our calls, we're going to have a blank month next month. Guys, that's culture. Because you successfully tied the success of them and the success of the company back to their KPIs. And you don't have to get their buy-in anymore because they've seen the results. That's when they become self-accountable. Not because you tell them to, not because you incentivize them to. None of that will work long-term. Those are just little springboards that we do along the way so that they can see and get the result. And once they see and get the result, guess what they're going to do? They're going to do the things they need to do to get the result. It's amazing. And it's not complicated, but we make it complicated. And we allow others to make it complicated because we buy their excuses because we don't have a clear plan. So, best practices, do a weekly meeting. I prefer that this weekly meeting be in person. That's the way I ran it for years. If you're running a real estate sales team, you're likely all in the same region because you're selling houses in one MLS area. I found these to be more effective in person because it gets them together. this day and age, we do a lot of meetings on Zoom. Great, do it on Zoom. We're doing Zoom right now. But you've got to get people together. And you've got to benchmark whether or not they're hitting their KPIs. So what is measured improves. That which is measured and reported improves exponentially. When you do this publicly, it's like kryptonite for your organization. So accountability will come alive further when you implement public recognition. So we like to say this is the combination lock to the soul of your people. Everybody loves recognition, and they will always do more for it than it will cost you. So we used to do things like we had real Vegas weight poker chips, and they felt cool, they looked cool, they had our logo in the center of them, and we had two colors, black and green. Black ones were worth $5, green ones were worth $10. The black ones and the green ones could be used for any company branded merchandise, and they had stuff they could order for any company events that we would do. So we do happy hours, things like that, they could use that. We would also do Make It Rain. This would be a program where if they sold X amount of dollars in a month, they would get cash the following month. So we come into the office, sometimes it'd be $100 bills. Everybody loves $100 bills. Sometimes it'd be a whole bunch of singles, and we'd make it rain on them, a whole stack of singles. And it was so much fun, guys. And it didn't cost a lot of money, but it would make them do the extra effort to get that result. It's amazing, like this day and age where everything is digital and like money is transferred directly into people's bank accounts, and they're probably enjoying shared bank accounts with their spouse or significant other. Like, we've lost the feeling of money, and we've desensitized from it. So like they might have just earned, $17,000 in commissions in the past month, but they'll do more to get those 10 crisp $100 bills, or all these ones splashed out on them. They'll do more for that than they will for an extra $5,000 because it's desensitized. They want that money, and they want it in front of everybody. We used to call it shoe money because we had a bunch of ladies on our team and be like, hey, now you can go buy those shoes. You don't even have to tell your husband how much they cost. This is your shoe money. This is your money. You earned it. And then challenges, we would do challenges. We would do like March Madness. We would do, I forget what we called the fall one. We do different challenges when we know there's going to be seasonal fluctuations in sales volume. We would also do annual incentives. This was great for overall buy-in because a lot of our incentives are geared towards salespeople. Our annual incentive was geared towards all people at the company. So employees, independent contractors that we worked with, agents, everybody, and they could bring their significant other. So we would do an all-inclusive, all expenses paid cruise for everybody and a significant other that they could bring. And if we hit our company goal, so again, buy-in, the success of them and the success of the company, we would hit our company goal and everybody would get to go. And the way you would see that play out in real life is like, hey, somebody's struggling, somebody who's not struggling would take them under their wing and say, hey, let me show you like how I'm doing my calls and what I'm saying, and let me help you level up. It's like, because we're all part of this together, we're all going to hit this annual goal together, and we're all going to go celebrate together. And then when you do celebrate together, there's this union, this bond that's created that you can't replicate any other way. There's just something magical that happened for us when we were all together on a cruise ship for a week at a time and just, letting loose and having a good time and hanging out together, that translates into a connectedness back home and an enhancement to our culture that we wouldn't otherwise have. So here's a couple books for you that are accountability focused books. Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Blount, Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willett, Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, It's Your Ship by Michael Abrashoff. These are amazing books. Like, I've read every one of these books multiple times, or I've read them and I've listened to them. I'll still say things like, like if I'm talking to my wife about, all right, I'm doing CrossFit now, and I know it's going to be painful, and I know it's going to be hurt, and it's going to hurt, and the workouts are going to kick my butt. And I'll say to her, like, I don't care. I'm going to Goggins this thing. Like, Goggins didn't care if it hurt. Goggins didn't care if it was cold out, if it was dark out. Goggins didn't care if he fractured his leg. He was going to do it anyway, because that was his level of commitment. And of all these books, I think the most psychotic, insane, crazy human being for personal accountability that I've ever heard or experienced is David Goggins. So if you don't know him, go plan your goals and think about what you need to do, and then go listen to his book on Audible, because he actually does the narration with a partner. It's so good, guys. You'll just be rolling when you listen to the extreme stuff that he does. but you'll have a different mindset around it, because you'll be like, man, if Goggins could get himself to do that, can I get myself to have 10 contacts a day? Like, this is child's play, guys, yet we're not doing it. So in conclusion, accountability changes everything in your business, but it starts with you. And if it just is you, even more so. Make a commitment today to be the champion winning coach of your team by developing your players into best they can be. And if you're a solopreneur right now, if you're doing this all by yourself, get into an accountability group with somebody else so that they can be your coach. You'll reap the financial rewards of a high producing business, but more importantly, you'll experience the fulfillment that comes from being a true leader and influencing your people to achieve higher levels of success than they could ever imagine. Like, the money's great, and hitting the goal financially is usually rewarding, but the true rewards are going to be the person you become in the process and the fulfillment that you feel by doing something that was hard and achieving that result. And to the extent that you're not doing hard things, you're probably very unfulfilled right now. Like, ask yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, 10, I'm super fulfilled, 1, I'm not fulfilled at all. And if that number is less than 5, I guarantee it's because you don't have a plan in place to challenge yourself, and you're not tracking and measuring those results. If you're somewhere between 5 and 10 and you want to be higher, it's because you're not being disciplined enough to what you set forth, and your subconscious is probably telling yourself that you're a liar. And if your subconscious is telling you that you're lying to yourself, guess what's going to happen to your fulfillment score? It's going to go down. So just wipe the slate clean, come out of this conversation today with a new path in place, be super mindful of what you have been doing, and set a very, very small goal for yourself that you know you can achieve, and measure the achievement of that small thing and pat yourself on the back. And do that for long enough and be consistent enough about it, and then just click it up 1 notch and continue to do that until you get to the level of discipline and activity that you need to be at to achieve your wildest goals and dreams that you have for yourself. So that's what I got for you guys. And I want to open it up to any kind of questions, challenge. Oh, we got a lot more of you now than when we started. I can't see you guys when I'm presenting. I turn it off so that I can be present in the training. So, hey, what's up?
That was great stuff, John.
Now, Kathy, you're kind of one of those cats that run on both sides of the fence. You have a production business that you're very serious about and you do very well with. You also have an attraction business that you're very serious about and you do very well with. Can you see how this training today is exactly the same for both sides of the fence?
Absolutely. Absolutely. For me, it's discipline. And the big thing that I want to do right now, I've got a whole vision thing here set up in front of my desk, and I'm going to have, I heard these 2 words from me. I was given to a personal development coach years and years ago. He said, Kathy, focus, discipline is what you need to have in your life. And I go, I don't like either one of those.
Yeah.
And he goes, it doesn't matter, but that's it. He goes, because I had played a story to him of different points in my life that I'd had success. And at that particular point in time, I was beat up. And he said, when you tell me your story of how you achieved, it was when you focused in and you disciplined yourself to do what you needed to do, and then you succeeded. And it's almost like little reminders. If I really want to succeed, that's exactly what I do. So it was a great Zoom today for me to hear all this stuff, because I want to get refocused in, because I got all my goals, but I don't have my plan as detailed as I'd like to.
Let me just connect what you just said and reflect it back in a different way. The enemy of discipline is success.
Mm.
And the reason that is because when we achieve a level of success, we're farther from that pain that caused us to have the discipline to get to the success in the first place. And like you said, you don't like focus and you don't like discipline. And because you're successful, it's harder for you to have the focus and have the discipline to achieve your next level of success.
Mm-hmm.
But when you didn't have anything and your back was up against the wall, it was easier to do the things you didn't want to do because they were less painful than where you were.
Yes.
So if we know that to be true, and it's true for you, it's true for me, it's true for everybody, we have to artificially create that pain by having a crystal clear vision of where we're going to go. And that's why you'll hear it said, if your why doesn't make you cry, it's not strong enough. Hey, it's not about crying. It's about identifying and having such a clear vision for our future and what's possible that not achieving that would make us cry, i.e. give us pain, to move us from the comfort that we're in to do the disciplines and the daily consistencies that we have to get that thing. And if it's more uncomfortable for you to get uncomfortable than it is for you to not to achieve that goal, you'll never achieve that goal.
Right. Thanks. I appreciate
Anybody else
that.
got anything? Let's see. Raise your hand, unmute yourself. I got a couple screens. Let's see if there's anything that came up in the chat. All right. Another great book for anyone and everyone is High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard. Amen. I got like 500 copies of that book. I was in Brennan's private coaching group for a number of years, did his private mastermind. In fact, AJ, Lars, and I did Brendon Burchard's high ticket private mastermind together way before we were in EXP. In fact, AJ was in EXP and we were making fun of him at that time. And I think that if it hadn't have been for that mastermind environment where AJ, Lars, and I bonded, I don't think I would be in EXP today. So like your environment matters. Whatever you want to accomplish or achieve, our environment is critical. That book, High Performance Habits, is amazing. One word of caution, it's a little bit heady. So if you're not a good technical reader, it's going to be a little bit harder to get through than, say, something like Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, which is very untechnical. But it is an amazing book, and more empirical research has been done around high performance that's illustrated in that book than anywhere else at any other time in the world. Documented, like it's legit. And for those of you that saw Brendon speak on stage last week, you got to know this man and his heart, and like he's just one of the smartest. What makes Brendon so unique, in my opinion, is there's people that are very good coaches and there's people that are very good marketers. I don't know anybody who's as good at those two things in one person as Brendon Burchard. So this guy runs like seven-figure plus businesses a year. Literally on the other side of money, doesn't have to work anymore. Truly operates out of a servant mentality. And Brendon is somebody, what we just talked about, me and Kathy, about, success being the enemy of discipline. Like Brendon's somebody who has mastered that because he doesn't have to do anything anymore. And he's probably working harder than he's ever been working in his career. That's just a level of like personal accountability and discipline he has to serve, to be of value. Because when the money's all gone and taken care of and out of the way, the only thing we have left with is ourself and our fulfillment. And I'm telling you guys, the fulfillment's going to come from getting yourself to do and excel at hard things. Like initially, and Bob Berg talks about this in a book called Halftime. Initially, we start out in our careers and our lives, and we want to have success to make the money, to get the house, to get the cars, like whatever that looks like for you. And we spend a lot of our life, our first half of our life, achieving those things. Then we realize, okay, now that we have those things, like I'm stuck in myself. And what's going to give your life meaning and give you true fulfillment and happiness is knowing that you had a life well lived and you were able to challenge yourself, set out to do things, achieve them, and help others do the same. And when you can still when you can be of service to other people and achieve success as a byproduct of that, that's the ultimate place to operate in. And I believe that's the realization I had at EXP, not before I joined or even when I joined, but that clicked with me like a couple months after I joined. It was like, wait, not only do I get to participate in this amazing opportunity and it's so cool and like it's very lucrative, but my reward is based on helping others. That's why when you hear people talk about like retirement, the most fulfilled people never want to retire because they want to stay in the role that they're in for as long as they can, because that's what gives their life meaning. So I hope this was helpful for anybody. We got a couple minutes left. Is there any last minute questions or anything that anybody wants to add or challenge or ask? We got a couple minutes left. If not, I'm going to go blow my nose. Awesome, guys. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm excited that I got to spend a little time with you here on the production side of things. And I hope this was helpful to somebody. And if it was helpful to you and you know somebody else that it could be helpful for, make sure you tag them, get them to see the recording, and hold them accountable to doing it. Talk to you later.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.